What's up, car fans? Today I'm going to show you how to repair a badly torn seat. This is my 2008 328i. This is my BMW E90 project car, and unfortunately, this driver's seat has a little tear in the side bolster. It's not too bad to repair this, or at least get it looking to the point where you don't really notice it. So what I'm going to do today is actually fill this with a leather repair compound. I use stuff from leatherrepairkits.com. It's pretty easy to work with, and I'll show you that before I get started. But what we're going to do is actually fill the crack with leather repair compound and then apply a grain. I'm going to take the leather grain off of the actual seat here with a silicone mold bar. So we'll get the negative of the leather grain and apply that to the mold compound before it's totally dry. Then we'll just recolor it, and you'll see it blends right in. You'll never even know there's anything wrong with the seat. And that's really all there is to it. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's everything that the kit comes with from leatherrepairkits.com. We have our color flex. This is the actual color stuff that we put over the top of the filler once the filler is dried. And this is the leather repair compound. Now, this stuff, it kind of has the texture of like mayo or something. It's pretty easy, pretty light and easy to work with. They'll give you some wipes and a sponge. The sponge is actually to apply the color. Really easy to work with this versus like a foam brush or something. I like these a lot. And then you have this little spatula here to apply the compound. Not a whole lot to it. Basically, apply the compound, let it dry, get your texture on there, and then color it and call it a day. Looking closely at the seat, you can see that the material is kind of peeling away. So it's just like kind of falling off, and most of it has already fallen off. We don't need to, because this isn't actually torn through the fabric, we don't need to reinforce this. We just need to fill where this outer layer is missing. And most importantly, we need to take this grain texture and reapply it to our filler that's going to fill in the gap here. So let's go get the mold bars and take the grain pattern off of this. To take the negative of this leather grain, I have a silicone mold bar here. This is a French press coffee maker. Got some hot water in here, and all you really have to do with this silicone is just get it hot, boiling-ish. It doesn't need to be totally boiling, and what you get is this really soft kind of mold bar, and you can take an impression of just about anything with this. So I'm just going to kind of flatten this out, and I don't need an area that's the full length here, but I just want a large area of the grain kind of wherever. So I'm just going to push hard and then let that cool, and that will pick up the leather texture. Here's the mold bar once I lifted it off the seat. You can see in the light there a little bit, we now have a perfect negative of the leather texture directly from the seat. Before I get started with the repair compound, I'm going to clean this with isopropyl alcohol and a microfiber. The next thing I'm going to do is apply some of this repair compound and fill in the gap here. This is very light stuff, easy to work with. Now for this layer, all I really want to do is get the compound into the gap. I don't want a ton of compound on the side, so I'm going to scrape away as much of that as I can. And I want to kind of push it down into that fabric. Now that the gap is filled, I'm just going back and I'm trying to get off as much as I can around the edge, because I want that grain texture on there. I don't want to fill that with the repair compound. And I have just a little bit of isopropyl. The microfiber is just a little bit damp. One last little once over here. Looking good. I'm using a heat gun here just to help speed up the drying process. With that coat dry, I'm going to go ahead and do one more coat. And on this coat, I'm going to go a little bit beyond the repair area. I'm trying to kind of bring it back so that it's in an even line along here to get a good blend. With the second coat on, now what I'm going to do is use the heat gun to kind of dry the top surface, and I basically want it to skin over. And once I get the top surface dry to the point where when I kind of touch it, it's not coming off on my glove, then I will take the leather grain mold and apply it. It's been about 20 minutes, and I'm using the heat gun to kind of dry the top surface, and then I'm just going around and pressing with the leather texture where I can. And if you mess this up, if it's not dry all the way, then just kind of clean it off with some water and start over again. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't take much repair compound, of course, to fill this, so you're not going to waste too much material if you do that. But I'm just kind of going around and pressing the texture down here. I just got done sanding this very lightly with some 400 grit. Everything is dry. You can see I've got some of the grain texture now on there and apply the first coat of color. It doesn't have to be perfect. You'll see the color masks a lot of the unevenness in the grain texture. So let's go ahead and get the first coat of color on, see how it looks. Here's the first coat of color. Hopefully you can kind of see the blend there. And all I'm doing is taking the sponge and just kind of dabbing it on. So it's shiny right now because it's wet. We're gonna let that dry, and I'll probably do another coat right around the repair area there. But starting to look pretty good. I'm actually gonna go ahead and, once I finish this, I'm gonna fill a little gap right here, and then I'll actually recolor the whole bottom of the seat here, but that's pretty easy to do. Here is a single coat on the whole seat bottom. I did not do this part right here. You'll see when it dries, it blends in quite well. So I'm going to let that dry, and the sheen that you see will go away. The stuff dries matte finish. I just did a second coat along here. Hopefully you can see the blend starting to disappear pretty well. I know it's hard to see on the black. Of course, when you actually see the seat, you're way up here. So really looking quite good. I'm gonna let this dry, and I'll pick it back up and kind of clean everything up. The second coat is now completely dry. You can see it has a nice matte finish, and there's not a whole lot to see now when you open the door and take a look at the seat. It's a pretty good blend. If I get really close up here, hopefully you can see a little bit of the texture of the leather. And I'll try to point out here. So the repair area right along here. It's a really good blend. If I shine a light on it, you can see this a bit better. Now, of course, we're looking at this with a flashlight blasting the surface here. But you can see it's still a pretty good blend. It's a little bit rougher texture. I didn't get a perfect blend, but this is not something that you would see unless you are really looking for it. I'm zoomed way in on the seat here, so you can see it's a good color match between the OEM right here, OEM color, and the new Color Flex up here. So highly recommend this stuff from leatherrepairkits.com. I've done this a few times and I really like this stuff, so always happy to help, happy to answer any questions that I can. Just post them up in the comments section. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.